I never believed in the supernatural. To me, a house was just bricks and mortar, 4 walls, a ceiling, and a place to hide from the rain. But apartment 904 was different. It felt heavy, like the air itself was waiting for me to make a mistake. I'm a freelance video editor. My life happens at night, in the blue light of 3 monitors. When the world goes to sleep, I start my work. That's why I liked this place at first. It was high up, on the 9th floor, far away from the street noise. The rent was suspiciously cheap for the heart of the city, but I was too broke to ask questions. The building was an old concrete giant from the 70s. The elevator smelled like wet copper and old cigarettes, and it groaned every time it climbed past the 5th floor. My neighbor, an old man in 902, never looked me in the eye. He just stared at the floor and whispered, "Stay inside after midnight," the day I moved in. I thought he was just senile. I wish I had listened. The man across the street, my desk is positioned right in front of the window. From the 9th floor, I have a perfect view of the twin building across the street. It's an exact copy of mine. Identical windows, identical gray walls. It started on a Tuesday. It was around 2:15 a.m. I was rendering a heavy 4K file, so I leaned back in my chair and looked out the window. Most of the windows in the opposite building were dark, as usual, but then I saw him. In the apartment directly across from mine, apartment 904 of the other building, a man was standing at the window. He wasn't doing anything, no phone in his hand, no cigarette. He was just standing. His silhouette was sharp against the dim light of his room. At first I didn't think much of it. Insomnia hits everyone. But an hour later I looked again. He hadn't moved, not an inch. He was staring directly at my window. A cold shiver ran down my spine. I closed my blinds and went to bed, but I could feel his gaze through the thin plastic slats. The next night, I couldn't help myself. Curiosity is a dangerous thing. I bought a pair of high-powered binoculars from a pawn shop on my way home. I told myself it was for architectural study. Deep down, I knew I was terrified. When 2 a.m. came, I turned off all the lights in my apartment. I wanted to be invisible. I sat in the dark, adjusted the focus on the binoculars, and aimed them at the 9th floor across the street. My hands started shaking. The man was there again, but now that I could see him clearly, something was horribly wrong. He was wearing the same gray hoodie I was wearing. He had the same messy hair, but his face was a blank slate of pale, stretched skin, no eyes, no nose, no mouth. Just a smooth, terrifying surface where a face should be, and yet I knew he was looking at me. He raised his hand slowly, mechanically, and pointed a long, distorted finger right at my lens. I dropped the binoculars. The sound of them hitting the floor felt like a gunshot in the silence. My heart was racing so fast I thought it would burst. I backed away from the window, but then I heard it. It was coming from my window, from the outside, 9 floors up. No balcony, no ledge, just a sheer drop to the concrete below. I didn't scream, I couldn't. My throat felt like it was filled with dry sand. I crawled toward the window and reached for the cord to open the blinds just a tiny bit. When I looked out, the man across the street was gone. His window was wide open, the curtains fluttering in the wind, but the scratching hadn't stopped. It was louder now. It sounded like a fingernail digging into the glass, trying to find a crack. I turned around to run for the door, but my computer screen flickered to life. I hadn't touched it. A text document was open. Words were appearing on the screen, letter by letter, as if someone was typing them from a remote location.
Do not look behind you.
I froze. The air in the room turned ice cold. I could smell something, like old dust and ozone. In the reflection of my monitor, I saw the window behind me. The blinds were still closed, but there was a shape pressing against them from the outside. A head, a pale, faceless head. The scratching stopped. Then, a voice thin and hollow, like wind blowing through a graveyard, whispered right into my ear.
I like your room, Mark. It feels just like mine.
I realized then that the buildings weren't just identical. They were mirrors, and something had decided to step through. I turned around with all the courage I had left, but there was no one there. The room was empty. But when I looked at the window, the glass wasn't reflecting my room anymore. It was reflecting the apartment across the street. And in that reflection, I saw myself, the real me. I was trapped inside the glass. I could see my own desk, my own monitors, but everything was reversed. And standing in my real room, the one I just left, was the faceless man. He was touching my things. He picked up my phone. He looked at my photos. He turned toward the window toward me, and as I watched, features began to grow on his blank face. Eyes, a nose, a mouth. He was becoming me. He smiled, a wide, unnatural grin that reached from ear to ear, and mouthed the words, "My turn." The police found my apartment empty 2 days later. No signs of a struggle. The door was locked from the inside. They found my computer still running, with a single video file saved on the desktop. It was a recording of me, sitting at my desk, staring at the camera for 6 hours without blinking. But if you look closely at the reflection in my eyes in that video, you can see a man standing across the street, and he's screaming for help. Please, if you're watching this on the 9th floor, or the 4th, or the 20th, don't look out the window tonight, and whatever you do,
Don't look at your reflection.